And we're going to need them all. They're all going to have to be big-time contributors because Lane Kiffin has done work in the transfer portal to create what could be a national title contender at Ole Miss. We'll discuss coming up next on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So the Ole Miss Rebels, one of the, I would say, trendy picks for the college football playoff and the national title. One of the teams that I've argued, along with like a Penn State, are the greatest beneficiaries of the college football playoff expansion. Because if you're Ole Miss, you've been regularly dealing with and trying to overcome the hurdles that are the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Georgia Bulldogs, the LSU Tigers to a lesser extent.
Yep.
And now you have your chance to get into a tournament. And once you get into a tournament setting, anything can happen. So Lane Kiffin has been really, really going after players in the portal. He has become the portal king. And he did so this year, also adding Walter Nolan out of Texas A&M. They in the last off seasons, they've added Trey Harris, which was a wide receiver that Oklahoma was after. They brought in Jackson Dart, again, a player that Oklahoma was after before they ended up ended up turning towards Dylan Gabriel. Don't misquote me. Don't do it.
They're going to misquote
and so this is a team that is going to be really, really good. It reminds me a little bit, though, of the Philadelphia Eagles super team. If you are an NFL fan at all, you remember a few years back, the Philadelphia Eagles had this big spending spree in the offseason, brought in a ton of talent, and dubbed themselves the super team, a la the Miami Heat of Bosch, LeBron, and Wade days. Well, it didn't work out for the Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't make the playoffs. They kind of struggled to find chemistry. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Ole Miss. I just wonder if they can pull it all together and get everybody on the same page. Because when you add a bunch of transfers and you make yourself a transfer destination, that's going to be the key factor, is
right,
creating an environment and a culture where everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, and he's living in that. He's doing the thing that we're wondering is going to make you, if it's going to make you successful or not, right? Yeah. You know, so far it's looking like he's getting. I mean, 11-2 last season, fantastic, first time in Ole Miss history they got 11 wins, and the way that the schedule is set, because they lucked out because they weren't, you know, all that great in the years once they added Missouri as well as Texas A&M. Their schedule's quite favorable for them to be able to do that again. Now, I mean, from Oklahoma, traveling to Arkansas and Georgia in a 3-game span with LSU mixed in there, you know, we'll have to see if they show up for Wake Forest. But it's funny because you know that we were seeing all these reports about our scrimmage and everything, right? The first one, and how the quarterback just didn't seem well. The offensive line was kind of struggling, and defense was dominating. Seems to be the exact same problem at Ole Miss. So for us Sooner fans, it's probably one of those like, oh, we're not the only ones. And remember, Jackson Dart's been there the last few years. Like, you know, we tried to get Jackson Dart, but we had Gabriel for 2 years. He's been there. This is his 3rd year. So for him, if he's struggling against that defense, it's either that they're all those transfers they brought in are just elite, or he's struggling. But I'll say this. I think their defense is going to be really, really good. I think that that's going to be the cornerstone of what they do. And they're not going to ask Jackson Dart to do too much. They're going to ask him to go out there, no need to win games. The defense is going to do most of that. But that's the other thing to keep in mind, Sooner fans. That's the thing I keep pointing out, and I'm hoping y'all understand. We ain't the only ones struggling in practice.
Yeah, that's what practice is for, right?
Right. Scrimmage is there for.
Yeah, we're going to have to bring Allen Iverson on to just talk about, we talking practice.
Practice? Talking about practice, man.
We're talking about practice. No, so Ole Miss, I mean, they're a talented team. The SP Plus rankings love them. They're 6th in the nation in offensive SP Plus. They are 16th in defensive SP Plus, 8th overall, and are going to have a special teams unit that looks pretty good as well. They're 26th in the SP Plus ratings. And again, this is an analytical approach to try to define what teams are heading into the season. And that is despite not really having a lot of great returning production. If you go look at ESPN's returning production rankings, Ole Miss is sitting just in front of Oklahoma, or actually just behind Oklahoma at 68th in the nation. And a lot of that is due to the fact that they don't have a lot of returning production coming back on the defensive side of the ball, where they rank 94th, 35th on returning production on offense. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, if they can get all the pieces to fit, I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the nation. I really like Jackson Dart. I really like his game. Reminds me, honestly, a lot of Jackson Arnold. Big, athletic, physical, has a good arm, can sling the rock, can kill you in the quarterback run game if you're not paying attention. And they've got weapons. They've got a lot of weapons. Now they're dealing with offensive line turnover, like almost everybody in the country is dealing with offensive line turnover. So again, can they put the pieces together for Oklahoma? I mean, that's going to be a tough road trip. Going down to Oxford, it's going to be a magical tailgating environment. I know a lot of Sooner fans are already excited about it, but I think this is going to be one of those games that says a lot about who this program is. You go in and you win it, and man, you're going to be flying high. You play it close and you give yourself a chance to win at the end, I think you're still feeling pretty good about yourself. If you go in and you kind of get the brakes beat off you, you're going to have some questions about where you're headed, because this is going to be one of the best offenses in the country. It's going to be a huge test for this Oklahoma Sooners defense.
Yeah, 100%. We've got to see this. By the time we come up on the Ole Miss game, we should have a very good understanding of what our offense and our defense is going to look like. Same thing with them. At that point, a lot of the attrition is going to hit. It's going to probably start hitting. You'll understand who's actually playing. But that game, to me, is going to be a critical point, because it's right there, feels like right smack at the end of the second quadrant of the season. And that's going to be the week where it's going to be, all right, we go out there and we show out in that game, we may end up being home free from there. The ESPN game-by-game predictor, the predictions on that one, they favor Oklahoma right now. The computers like us.
The computers like Oklahoma
a lot, and I think it's like 50. It's not a big blowout, but it's like 52% is where we're favored in that game. And so as we move up into that one, the good thing is, you got that game. Then the next week after traveling, you get Maine at the crib. So it's not a situation where you'll be looking ahead at anybody else, because Maine is a look ahead game from Missouri. So for us, we can focus all of our attention on Ole Miss, and it's going to be a good game. But I think Oklahoma can go out there and be the spoiler. I just think our defense at that point should show that we're here to spoil and break hearts and all of that.
Yeah, it's a critical stretch. You're coming like the 2 games prior to that, Texas, South Carolina. You get Ole Miss at the end of October, and then it's that final month of the season where, you have Maine, but then you've got Missouri, Alabama, LSU to close the season. If you can pick up that big win against Ole Miss at the end of November, that's going to really set you up to potentially make a run at, who knows, an SEC title game appearance, or at least a college football playoff appearance. But that's going to be a big, big game, big time matchup. And we don't have a time for it yet, but I bet it falls in the afternoon, kind of 2:30 kick time slot. It just seems like that's going to be kind of right in the ESPN SEC network wheelhouse for that one. But that's going to be it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Also, go check out the Locked On College Football podcast for your second listen. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to the Locked On College Football podcast in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Another little aside here to close us out. Jordan Phillips, former Oklahoma Sooners defensive tackle, recruited by Brent Venables when he was still the defensive coordinator here, traded from the Giants to the Dallas Cowboys, going to have a chance to have a significant role. A 9-year NFL veteran continuing his career in Big D.
We'll see him at Red River.
Yeah, this Sooner fan / Dallas Cowboys fan Really excited about that. We needed some defensive tackle depth, but that's going to do it again for today's episode. Follow Jay on Twitter at Unfair Sports, myself at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram for all of the social medias. Again, at Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer
Sooner.